Happy to be joined this morning again by my old chum, Philip Dwyer, citizen journalist based out of Tala in Dublin. A lot going on at the minute with regards to censorship, clamping down on what people can say, what they can't say, getting arrested for saying hurty words, for posting memes on the internet in England, all sorts of shenanigans and skullduggery going on in and around this space. So welcome, Philip. How are you doing this morning?
Good, and thanks for inviting me on, Rick. It's more dystopian nightmare stuff after what happened yesterday with Paul Nolan and your friend in the UK apparently getting arrested for a meme at 2 a.m. in the morning, treated like you're some kind of a terrorist. And it's fairly significant stuff what they're at now, the judiciary, especially in Ireland. I suppose I focus mostly on Ireland and more knowledgeable about Ireland and my own experiences. But Paul Nolan's case should be very disturbing for everybody that knows what's going on in Ireland and that is concerned about Ireland. It's really kind of becoming now more drastic, the actions of the establishment and the judiciary, the criminal justice system. It's crazy, really, what they're trying to do. And then a man can be locked up for filming in public what's happening in his country. And it's this journalism thing as well, the citizen journalist. Paul Nolan is a citizen journalist because he says he's a citizen journalist. That's all it takes, as far as I'm concerned. He's not a self-described citizen journalist like some of our media are describing him as. And he goes around and he's quite brave, as I said. There's not really any fear in the guy. He puts himself into difficult situations, as I have done myself, and it isn't easy. You have to take risks as a citizen journalist that's calling out authority in this country, calling out the regime, calling out wrongdoing and tyranny and corruption. You're going to have to take risks, and he's no problem doing that. And I've actually met Paul on a couple of occasions. I don't really know him that well. I know we've discussed his approach to things, and he's asked my advice. I've given him advice on, how to, stay calm with them, let people, if you're meeting kind of lefties and people who don't like you, just let them air themselves and show the public what they're like. They don't really have to do much other than that. And he listened to me. He appreciated our chat. And I find him, to be okay. I'm not sure. I didn't see the actual footage of what he's been convicted of. I know the area. It's very close to me where I live in Tala, and it was an office block being turned into an iPad center. It's the second and third floors of this large, massive building. And it's probably not even legal to have them there. And he's just showing people that the people who are coming into this country are not particularly probably nice, and they're not particularly legal, and they're just getting treated like kings and queens ahead of the Irish people. And he has to push a few boundaries here and there, but to be giving out prison sentences now for this is another step in the wrong direction for Ireland, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I don't know the guy. We're talking about Paul Nolan, based in Dublin, and I've put many of his clips up on this channel as well and commentated on them simply because he goes out and about with his chum. I think he goes under the name of Tinker. They go around Dublin on bikes. They have cameras on the front of the bikes to stop, to talk to people, to document stuff, to put it up onto the internet for the world to see. It's not done covertly. It's not done in the dark web. It's put out publicly on Twitter. It's put out publicly on YouTube, and it's there for the world to see. They're not hiding anything from what I can see. And much like yourself, Philip, I've met you several times in person. We have been at the same events several times, and obviously, I don't know what you do when you're not doing what you do at these events. But my experience of dealing with you, or my experience observing you, is you walk around with a camera, you talk to people. If they don't want to talk to you, they either walk away or you go away. You're not harassing or intimidating anyone. You give people a chance to air their opinions. Even people that are polar opposites to you or what you believe in, you'll put a microphone in their face and say, would you like to tell me what you think about this? Would you like to tell me what you think about that? Some of them will do it. Some of them will be polite. Some of them will be highly aggressive. Absolutely horrendous individuals that I've seen you coming across. But from what I can see, you just go about with your camera documenting, usually live, what's happening with no edits, and then you put it out on the internet. You know, you're not sticking it on a little private page somewhere for a select few people to see. You're not doing anything underhand, are you?
No, and it's unfortunate in Ireland. I've noticed that particularly in the last 4 or 5 years that we kind of always knew there was a certain amount of corruption within the judiciary, the Garda Síochána, the judges and whatever. But in the last 5 years, it's actually noticeably worse to me. That what they're prepared to do, how they're prepared to throw a charge at you for a spurious incident or whatever, of going into a hotel to ask to speak to the owner or the manager. That has become a criminal offence. You're putting people in fear by doing that. Derek Bly yesterday has been charged with filming a guard on the street, a public servant on the street, who had possession of a phone belonging to somebody that he wouldn't refuse to give back. He's been charged with that. I've just, as I said to you earlier, I've just received word back from GSOC. I made a complaint to GSOC there last year after the trouble in Dublin when the 3 children were stabbed. I was savagely beaten. I'd say that inspector, he knew exactly who he was. He knew I was a citizen journalist, let's call it. I was filming, I was covering the news, and he hit me as hard as he possibly could with all his might, at least 10 times with a steel baton. And he was told, I've been told now by GSOC that he acted professionally and he acted within the law and he didn't break any laws. So this kind of stuff is going on. We saw them in Coolock. I was pulled off the street in Coolock by Inspector Alan McDevitt. After that, when I was pulled off, we seen footage of a guy walking down the street on his own, accosted 2 riot police, ran over to him and just began to smash him with a baton. And it kind of brought back memory. I know how that feels. That is not a pleasant experience. And what happened to that guy was unbelievable. And this is what they don't want us to show. And they also had their annual conference to sergeants and inspectors in Kerry last year. And they said that they didn't want citizen journalists filming them in the course of their duties. Now, if that doesn't tell you that they're worried about being found guilty of wrongdoing, that they don't want, that they're knowingly going about their business unlawfully, and they want to go about it unlawfully and don't want to be exposed by ordinary citizens like myself and Paul Nolan, it's actually terrifying stuff. So it's gone to a new level now, and I think they're trying. I'm under charges still. I've got one coming up on the 20th of October for defending myself against social democrats who assaulted me. And that turns into a fray when it's a right-wing person involved and you're assaulted by a left-wing and you defend yourself. That turns into a fray. It doesn't turn into self-defense. I was assaulted in Drumshanbo by, you see, I showed you the video. I haven't put out the video yet. That's gone to the Gardaí now. Let's see what the Gardaí and the judiciary, the DPP, do with that one as well. A blatant attack on myself and Sean Wynne and John Wilson, who were just filming an interview, minding our own business, and we get assaulted by a left-wing lunatic radical who, as they say, would call himself probably an Antifa, who are they're just couriers for the government. They're kind of they're like their Securitat, you know, that will do the bidding for the violent bidding for the government to try and keep us in step or whatever, keep us afraid of going out doing about our business. So it's really, you know, and I've noticed as well, they're becoming a little more nasty. The system, the regime, the lefties or whatever, maybe they're in fear that their number is up now. That's going to be exposed, and there's going to be hell to pay when the public find out.
You know, just listening to you talking there, I don't know if people appreciate what you do, right? Because you get a lot of flack. A lot of the lefties and the Antifa, they're after you, they're gunning for you, they're calling you all the names of the day, that you're just a grifter and you're this and you're that and the other. Again, I'm only speaking from my dealings with you, so I'm speaking from personal experience here. Even don't forget that time actually when I was there also to witness this in Drogheda. Drogheda, we were walking down the road. There was a peaceful protest. A car pulled up. Okay, some guy in it who was connected somehow to Michael D. Higgins. I don't know who he was, or at least he had a past association with him. He rolled down his window and unleashed dogs abuse to you. Then a crowd came around the car, including members of Gardaí, and you actually said, look, he's listen to what he's just said. He's threatening me. He's getting on in threatening behavior. He's being foul-mouthed and vile. And there was children in that march as well. He was just allowed to toddle on his merry way. And also, you referenced that attack. You know, you've been badly beaten. I remember one of the first times before I actually knew who you were, I remember seeing a video. You just came back from somewhere in Dublin, and or the hospital, and your trouser legs rolled up, and they almost broke your bloody legs. You know what I mean? You've been in court. I do not know how many times now. Usually when you're in court, you pop on here and you give us an update of it. And sadly, that's quite frequently at the minute. All we're simply walking around with your camera. And the other incident that you mentioned, and I'm not going into any details, but I've seen the video for it that you haven't released yet, but you plus two other gentlemen were absolutely 100% accosted, assaulted verbally and physically by what I can only describe as a raving lunatic for the simple act of standing, minding your own business, talking amongst yourselves, and yet somebody was so triggered that they had to physically attack you. So if you are in it for the money, and if you are in it as a grift, let me tell you, you certainly earn your money, Philip. You earn it.
Yeah, I'll get to my phone and show you my bank account there, my bank statement there. You know, I can tell you I'm not in it for the money, but it's like, it's really, I suppose, people like that guy.
This is people, by the way, this is also people that are accusing you that are working for the mainstream media, that are on lucrative contracts with newspapers, lucrative contracts with television shows, subsidied places. They're sitting on a big fat salary. You go out, get bashed, get verbally and physically assaulted. They write a story about you, telling what a horrendous individual you are. They get the big fat paycheck, and you're left scratching yourself going, what am I going to do to make ends meet this month?
Yeah, and I mean, and it's just the level of corruption now, and the case in Coolock where I was literally pulled off the street for live streaming what they were doing with the crowd and how they were reacting to the bit of trouble that was in Coolock. I'm told I was in the court recently with it, and it was put back to the 29th of January. But the barrister said to me, the inspector said in his report, because I'm convinced he knew who I was. He definitely knew who he was. He's also a diversity officer in his role in the Guards as well. So he definitely knew who I was. And then he said afterwards that he said I wasn't a reporter when he was arresting me. But then afterwards in his report, he said he knew I was a far-right agitator. That's how he describes me in the court, right? So he's describing me as that. The newspapers you're talking about and that the media describe us, people like me and you even, as that far right. I was down in Boyle County, Roscommon there last week at the Mark Atwood had an event for patriots and people across the pond and people who were awake. And we had the wonderful Leah Doherty, who was the person who accosted me and Sean in Drumshanbo, ex-partner, who accosted us. I won't mention his name yet, but it's like, she said to me, she had the audacity to say to me, oh, did you get your selfie stick back? You know, you didn't put your video up yet, Phil. And I'm like, well, let's see what happens. And I said, tell your guy, your ex, that he'll be getting a knock on the door from the Guards, hopefully soon. But this is how brazen they are. They obviously feel like that they have the judiciary, the criminal justice system on their side, that they can do this. And then she also had a sign up out on the public street, just outside the venue where we had the event. And she said, Mark Atwood, fascist, grifter, selling bleach to people on the health grounds or whatever she was saying, right? Which is like, you know, we can all laugh at that, but that's, you know, this kind of stuff is what got Charlie Kirk murdered and assassinated. This kind of demonization of people that, you know, that they deserved. And then you see all the demons that were, and Leah Doherty being one of them, she's on, she's out there as one of these demons. Like you can see it in her, like it's actually palpable, like how possessed she comes across. But these people coming online celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. And I asked her to her face, can you comment on Charlie Kirk's death? What do you think of, you know, and she refused to answer. But it's like, there's consequences for this stuff, you know, that people can, this demon that you saw attack me, her ex-boyfriend came up and he attacked us out of nowhere. We weren't doing anything to him, started to abuse us or whatever. And, you know, for me, I'm just the type of person as well. I won't be bullied by anyone. I hate bullies and I refuse to be bullied by anybody, you know, whether it's online or whatever. Well, look, I don't generally listen to bullshit online. But physically, if somebody comes up to me, I'll stand my ground, and I won't allow myself.
I will say this, and I want to cut in there because the woman you're talking about, I don't know her, but the guy that you're talking about, I've seen the video that you're describing.
Yeah.
And people, I remember I talked about this before, and people said, "Oh, you should post the video." It's not up to me to do it, all right? It's up to Philip to do it as and when he wants to do it. But trust me on this, right? I've seen some stuff in my life. I've seen some stuff. I've seen some people acting up. I've acted up myself in the past. But what I'm saying is, right, this guy was absolutely demented. He was demented. And to your credit, when Philip says about he won't be bullied and he won't be pushed about, Philip absolutely 100%, I would have thought, could have laid this guy out, justifiably so, but he showed inhuman restraint. Philip did. And like I said, I'm just going by what I said. If it was me, I mean, I doff my cap to you. I get the red mist very easily, Philip. And you were in a position there, you were taking a defensive stance. The guy was coming at you super aggressively, and you could have absolutely clocked him round the head with an implement, a selfie stick, but you didn't. And he ended up grabbing it, taking it from you, breaking it, and then driving off with it. I call that's called theft, at least in my opinion. But this guy's still out there. He's on the loose.
Yeah, and that was, in a way, I could have neutralized the guy. I jeopardized myself because all I was thinking about was me. If he had suffered an injury, I would have been prosecuted by this judicial system. And so that's where we're at the moment. And I think going back to Paul Nolan's case there, I mean, absolutely ridiculous. And he's now a victim of it. They're looking for any way possible that they can charge people like ourselves for any wrongdoing around this migration stuff. And there's another thing I'm sure Paul Nolan will agree with there. What he experienced yesterday was when I've been in court, and if a foreign national comes in to speak to the judge in relation to your case or whatever, they're absolutely treated like their word is gospel. And the fantasy stuff that was said against me, say down in Ennis, for this so-called ridiculous trespass into a hotel grounds that says hotel on it, asking to speak to someone in charge, speaking to the manager. And she filled the courtroom full of nonsense. The judge took everything on board what she said, and he disregarded anything I said, and held me to account for not being nice to the guy, this strange man from so-called Ukraine with no identification or nothing, telling me to get out of a hotel, that I had no knowledge of who he was, what authority he had. So I said, Paul had witnessed it yesterday. He had a number of foreign witnesses coming in, being groomed by barristers, prosecution barristers and Gardaí, to say that you were in fear and that you're terrified because you were put on camera, and asked basic questions about what you're doing here. I didn't see the video, the interaction. I don't know. Was it a bit pushy? I haven't a clue. But the fact is, he's expressing his right to ask questions and be a journalist and archive this and show the people of Ireland what's going on. And it's been criminalized now in Ireland.
And again, he put it out. I haven't seen the video personally either, but again, it was put out in the public domain. He didn't hide it anywhere. He put it out in multiple platforms. So obviously, if he thought he was doing something wrong, or he thought he was doing something that was out of line, you certainly wouldn't incriminate yourself by then going ahead and posting it up on multiple internet forums. But let's have a look at some of the details in this case, because it runs parallel to a lot of what you've experienced, okay? And you can speak about this firsthand as well. So this is outside the court yesterday. Our friend Ferg was outside the court. He gave a very brief breakdown of what happened, and then we'll look at the details of the story. So this is Fergus Parr here giving us a summary outside the courthouse yesterday in relation to the Paul Nolan case. That was a landmark case as well. Same as the one that you were done with the body cam footage. That was an Ireland first as well. So we're getting a lot of Ireland first stuff on here, not the political party, but the in terms of people getting arrested, it's Ireland first. So let's listen to Ferg.
So just an update on Paul Nolan at the CCJ here. He's had to be given 10 months with 3 months suspended. So he's been sentenced to 7 months in prison, and you can appeal that on €500 bail. So we're in the process of getting that paid from now. We might have to go to Mountjoy to pay for them, because his solicitor hasn't processed the paperwork in the court office here at the minute, in the bail office. So that's what you get for being a citizen journalist and trying to protect your country and let your own people know what's going on in this country as regards to corruption and the mass illegal immigration. So this was a big deterrent for anyone standing up and telling the truth and going against this system, this absolutely fucking rotten system that is stacked against us. Yeah, that's it for now. Hopefully Paul will be out on bail in the next few hours and he's out on appeal, but he's had to been sentenced to 7 months anyway. God bless all in this fight. Here we go, Brad.
Does Ferg hit the nail on the head there when he says this is really to rattle cages? This is to act as a deterrent, as if to say, if you're harboring any ideas of doing anything similar, this could be used well, and quite a significant, or how would you say, a serious sentence. There are 7 months plus 3 months suspended, although I believe he's bailed out on appeal at the minute, but that's still a lengthy enough sentence, Philip.
Absolutely, it is. And it's funny with that law, I was of the opinion that could be a law, an international law, UN law, where you're not allowed to speak to an asylum seeker, you're not allowed to film them, or whatever the case may be. Maybe it is was it 2015 is floating around in my head, I can't quite remember. But it's like, this is another thing of second-class citizens. Irish citizens are second class. If you come in here and you sort of say the words asylum, you're not even allowed to be questioned. And all my experience of going to IPAS centres, I've met plenty of so-called asylum seekers. I've spoke to them all. I've always tried to be respectful. I've asked them straight questions like, where are you coming from? What, is there war going on? You know, have you got children, women, a wife or whatever? And, you know, I've never really been, some of them ignore you, some of them don't. But not one of them in my interactions could I safely say that they were genuine, that they hadn't come through numerous different countries to get here, to come here for obviously the welfare and the economic situation here. And it's like, these are laws now, and these are protecting the Garda and the system, the Justice Department, for not enforcing our immigration laws. Like, this is like, they're actually enabling these criminals. And once you come into a country illegally, you're a criminal. I'm sorry, but that's what you are. Well, no matter what your past was or whatever, once you cross into another country, if I go to America or if I go to Cuba, you know, you're put in a cell and you're treated like a criminal. So, but here, you can't even question these people. You can't show the country what's actually happening with these people, and then this is what you get. You're given a jail sentence.
Well, this is the headline, Philip, here. A Dublin YouTuber becomes the first person jailed for posts exposing asylum seekers. And your claim to fame or infamy, I think it was back in February of this year, February or March, you were the first person to be convicted using Garda body cam footage. I might be mistaken about that. So you're a groundbreaker in this area as well, for all the wrong reasons. So now Paul Nolan is the first.
Sorry, it's a coincidence, isn't it, that a right-wing citizen journalist, anti-establishment, against government policy type of guy is the first one to be exposed on a camera, a Garda body cam. That there was no other crime going on around the city that these cameras could have exposed a criminal, you know, doing something, drug dealing or breaking into a shop or anything like that. It just happened to be a citizen journalist who's on the right wing and who's exposing establishment corruption, you know. But sorry,
no, well now Paul Nolan joins you as a first YouTuber to be jailed for posts exposing asylum seekers. That's him outside the court yesterday. A self-described, and that's the phrase that you took an issue with, rightly so, citizen journalist and YouTuber became the first person to be jailed in a landmark case for online posts which risked identifying asylum seekers in Ireland. Paul Nolan, 36, stood outside the IPAS Centre, St John's House, High Street, Tala, Dublin, which I believe is not too far away from you, on August the 22nd and 26th last year, which would have been, 2024, and questioned teenage boys, a young woman, and 3 middle-aged men who were staying at the facility. Now, here's the interesting part here. right up at the top, there's a statement there to say international protection applicants have a legal right to anonymity, which in many cases is more than the rights that are being shown towards Irish people that are being convicted of crimes and appearing in court. Because in this particular article, and I don't have the time to go through all of it, it lists some previous convictions that he had, but it also lists his full name and his address and his occupation. So he's fully doxed, as it were, as a result of this article. But yet, ironically, he's being brought in front of the court for revealing the names and locations of other people that are in under international protection. So I'm not arguing with what they're saying here. International protection applicants have the legal right to anonymity. Like it or not, that's the way the system is set up at the minute. And that's why this guy is finding himself in hot water. He also denied 4 counts, which states that without consent, it's an offence to publish in a written publication or broadcast or cause to be broadcast information likely to lead members of the public to identify the person. Well, I don't know that anybody ever followed this thing up. Anybody ever targeted in on these people? Who cares really what their actual name is? Or, the fact is they're here. They're in the IPAS centres. They're being funded by the Irish taxpayer. To me, that's what was being documented. But the judge noted this was the first time a prosecution had been brought punishable by a 12-month sentence. So we know the details. He was given a 10-month sentence, final 3 months suspended, on condition that he stays under supervised probation, number 1, completes an anger management counseling course, number 2, and remains away from IPAS facilities for 2 years. There's the big one right there. The anger management thing, you go, you do your course, you tick your boxes at the end, you get supervised probation. But the fact is now there's been a restriction for 2 years being put on this guy to stay away from IPAS centers, to further document what he's been doing, and also that the video should be taken down. And just lastly here, and then you can give me your thoughts on this, it shows you what his videos, he was questioning middle-aged men, teenage sons, etc. And the judge described the conduct as repeated, premeditated, and targeted. He slated the accused, saying he used a tissue of lies wrapped in a shroud of pseudo-citizen journalism. Sentencing, he brandished his conduct a disgraceful, glorious display of rudeness, hyena-like behavior, and ignorance of the people involved. He attempted to convince the court, Paul Nolan, that in his role as an untrained citizen journalist, he had learned about a demonstration outside the building and went to investigate it for his YouTube channel. So he's not being backwards about what he was doing. Saying, I heard about this, I went down and documented it, put it on a YouTube channel, and it didn't make any bones about it. And instead he gets a torrent of abuse from the judge.
Yeah, and the judge used the word rudeness. I didn't know rudeness was a criminal offence either, but I'm just thinking about the absurdity of that law, actually, when you think of, say, the work we do. If we're out on the street, say a protest, which has happened plenty of times in O'Connell Street, I'm going around live streaming. I walk past individuals. Now, if I come across somebody who's a non-Irish person, who could be Indian, Pakistani, Afghan, Algerian, or whatever, and I go up to them to say, hello, what do you think of what's going on? And what happens if they actually turn out to be an asylum seeker? How are you meant to know who was actually seeking asylum, who's here working, who's here, might be here legally, or whatever, if they're a foreign national and you're out in the street covering the news, basically? Could you be charged could they decide to charge you if the person that you actually talk to on camera is an asylum seeker, just by happenstance that they are? How does that law work? And so it's like, how are the Irish people meant to find out what's going on in this country when this?
Well, obviously they're not, Philip. They're not meant to find out. I don't know if he got names. Like I said, the reporting's very sketchy. It's certainly very specific when it comes to Paul Nolan, not so specific with the people that he spoke to in Tala. But what I'm thinking is, I would have been very surprised if those people had to give up their full names and the names of their children, and then he published that on the internet. Because don't forget, we've had several folk several new to the parish recently. One of them in East Wall actually had 27 different names. So many different names, actually, that Garda Síochána actually turned around in court and said, we actually don't know who this is. We actually don't know who this person's real name is. And we actually don't know where they're from because they've been hopping from country to country. So they admit it themselves. Some people have 27 names. And the thing is, too, in terms of harassment, right? My understanding is, okay, and this is the way I would expect people to act in general. If I come up to you and you're in a public place, Philip Dwyer, okay, and I am videoing you, you have no right to come up to me and say, stop videoing me, because you're in a public place and I'm just standing there videoing whatever, a shop front or a car passing by or the guards arresting someone. You have no right to come up to me and demand that I stop recording and that you're in my video and I have to delete it. You have no right to do that. But if I follow you down the street and I'm shoving the camera in your face and I'm harassing you and haranguing you and causing you distress, well, then you've every right to say, listen, back off, mate. I don't want to talk to you. You can video me walking away, crossing the road or doing whatever you want to do, but you can't get in my face like that and you can't harass me. Again, I can only speak from what I've seen you do. I've never seen you doing that. I've never seen you pestering anyone. Some people have made it very clear they don't want anything to do with you, in which case they walk away or you go away. You don't go after them. But I've seen many of people chasing you to cause you stress and alarm and stop their car to give you a mouthful of abuse. Again, with Paul, I can't speak for the way that he operates, and I didn't see this video, but if he's standing at an iPass center and he's asking people, where are you guys from? Or how did you guys get here? He's asking a question. At that point, they can say, we don't want to talk to you. We're walking away from here. Let's go, guys. Then if he follows them after that, or you follow them, or I follow them after that, well, then there might be a case there that you're actually, because if I went out today and some guy crossed the road, if he was videoing outside my house and I didn't like it, there's nothing I can actually do about it. But if he comes over and crosses the road to me and sticks a camera in my face and says, tell me this, tell me that, and said, listen, mate, back off. I don't want to know. I'm not interested. You're harassing me. You're in my space. And he persists with that. Well, then there's a case to be made. He's harassing me. But I don't believe that that's my take on it. My personal opinion is that's not what happened. But hey, what the hell do I know?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a sense of being a citizen journalist out on the street, and the only exception, I suppose, is maybe if you're looking to speak to a public representative, you might be that bit extra pushy, because these people are being paid to be held accountable to the public.
Or you would walk along beside them. You would walk along beside them maybe, and as they walk, you walk at a distance. You're shouting questions that they can choose to ignore, rather than like blocking their path and sticking your camera right up their nose, that type of thing. No. And that's, that's a public space.
But I also think in Paul's case, and especially, I only know my own experience as well, but I don't believe that Paul was there trying to interrogate children, refugee children. I just don't believe that. Like, and even interrogate, you talk to these people, you just ask them questions. What are you doing here? Whatever. You have to remember that all these people that are coming in here, whether they're legitimate or not, they're all being paid this has all been paid by the taxpayer. The Irish taxpayer are paying for this, and they should have a right to be able to see what kind of individual is coming into the country. And the other thing as well, I've never really asked any of the refugees that I've ever spoken to identify themselves. Like, what's your name? No. What's your name? Your rank and serial number? Like, never do that. I just talk to them, say, oh, are you a refugee or are you seeking asylum? And I said, can you tell us how you got here? Why you're seeking asylum here in Ireland? Try to be respectfully, ask them questions. Most of them, a lot of them, were willing to talk to you and answer you. Yeah. And off we go on our merry way. And then it goes up online and people can make their own decisions on it. But absolutely the right of the Irish people to see that if we're bringing in the majority of lately of military age men coming from the Middle East and Africa, the Irish people have a right to see that and to say that this is what's really happening. These are the people who are being brought into these state-of-the-art accommodation in a lot of cases, like heat, a roof over their head, 3 meals a day, been given to these people who we know nothing about. The Irish people have a right to see that. When we have the homeless Irish people lying on the streets outside of these places. I think you did a video on it there recently. There was Irish people being let sleep in tents outside these iPad centres, and these non-nationals walking past them. and going in for their 3 meals a day and their lovely warm rooms and beds and everything else, and their free medical, free education, whatever, everything they want. So they have a right to see this. But again, it's paddy last as usual, you know.
It is. And just to give this so happened, this is unrelated. What I'm about to show is unrelated to this case, but it's to give an idea, because there are allegations being made that there's a two-tier policing and a two-tier justice system in Ireland, that some people are treated more preferentially than others. So let's put this to the test. So yesterday, this case, this is the case of Paul. And as you can see there, YouTuber becomes first person jailed 10 months, right? So that's Paul Nolan, Dublin man, in Dublin doing what we've just described. Okay, here's another case that this was published yesterday. Okay, this was published yesterday. Monaghan, judge slams a man who threatened to eliminate female worker, covered himself in petrol on the roof of an accommodation centre. So could have been a mass death there. This is how he repays the hospitality. Now, this is what the judge said. So this is somebody who was threatening to set fire to a premises with him on the roof, full of people, and threatened a female worker. What did he get? If you read down to the very bottom of that here, Judge Raymond Finnegan told the court this is how he repays hospitality. He handed down a 5-month sentence for threat to kill or cause serious harm, suspending it for 2 years. 5 months for that versus 10 months for asking invasive questions. Philip, what more do we need to see?
On the same day as Paul Nolan gets handed down that 10-month sentence, and this is a common occurrence. This is actually nearly a daily occurrence that the courts, the criminal courts in Dublin there, anyone can walk in, look at the lists of offenders or of cases that are there, look at the disproportionate amount of foreign names on the list that are up on charges. The last day I was in there waiting to be heard, I didn't even get heard, but it was like the names that were called out, I'd say there was just 7 or 8 foreign names on the list, and then 3 to 4 Irish names on the list. And the majority of the foreign names didn't even appear. They sent out bench warrants, you know, these people, and they're treated like as if, you know, if it was an Irish person who didn't show up, it'd be like the fire brigade would be called, and it'd be get him in here. But it seems to be a whole different ball game for non-nationals in the courts, and there's no way judges can't see that. You know, they deal with them every day. The disproportionate amount of migrant crime going on. And I don't care. That's not racist to say. That's just a fact that this is what this is going on. Our government doesn't even produce the stats for foreign crime in this country. We can see them in Europe.
Else, Philip. The stats for everything, everything else.
We can see them in Holland. We can see them in other countries where and then we can figure out who's more likely to commit crime, who's more likely to commit rapes in the country, and it's usually Middle Eastern, African people, and that's just a fact of life. We're bringing in the worst of the worst, you know, sending out text messages to say, come here, you'll get stuff for free. Who's going to come? The dregs, the ones, the wasters, the people who want to just manipulate the system. That's what they're attracting here, and it's coming to fruition. You know, everybody can see it with their eyes now.
It's the elephant in the room, but it's an elephant that I believe is getting bigger and bigger, and the room is getting smaller and smaller. But you can only keep a lid on this for so long, and I think the penny has dropped with very, very many people. I mean, it's just impossible to escape this now. But still, the war, I would call it, the war against independent journalism, the war against citizen journalism is very much underway at the minute. And obviously they're threatened, or they feel some form of threat by this. Otherwise, they would just let it slide. They wouldn't make a hullabaloo about it, and they wouldn't make a song and dance about it. And they certainly wouldn't be trying to make an example of you, scapegoat you, or the like of Paul Nolan as a result of their actions. So I just wanted to get you on this morning, get your thoughts on this one, because a man probably with arguably the most first-hand experience in Ireland about this business for quite some number of years now. I appreciate your take on it, Philip. And let's see what happens. And Paul's out, I believe, on bail. I'm not sure what happens for him after that, but this is just another example of the screws getting tightened down on who can go where, who can say what, and who can do what in Ireland. So, Mr. Philip Dwyer, big thanks to you for taking time out of your day this morning. Check the description box underneath this video. There'll be a link through there to Philip's X page. Get on there if you can. Show him some love, show him some support, because contrary to popular belief, he's not living like a king, and he's not, about to hop into his BMW X5 and swan off around Dublin enjoying himself. It's a tough old grind out there. It's not a grift, it's a grind, I would say. Would that be a fair statement?
100%. And just a big thank you to you, Rick, and keep up the great work yourself. You're doing really phenomenal stuff.
I'm just chugging along, Philip. There's nothing else for it. I appreciate your kind words and also your time this morning. Very, very valuable. People, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. Cut and paste the link to this video. Very simple to do. Dump it into Facebook, WhatsApp groups, send it as emails. Do whatever you want with it. Use this content, chop it up, stick it onto your own platforms. Let people see what's going on out there. For me, for now, I'm Rick Munn. This is No Risk, No Reward Media, over and out.